How many remember Akademiks? Akademiks is one of the brands that came to prominence in the early days of streetwear, before it was as widespread and well respected as it is today. Streetwear, that is, as a genre. Akademiks helped forge the lane that many other brands would later follow in an effort to create a fashion genre now beloved the world over. They managed to build quite the following on their quest to create a brand that both looked good and was accessible to a demographic who wasn't able to afford some of the more expensive pieces from legacy brands. But over the years, Akademiks has faded into obscurity. Ever wonder why? Well, let's find out. I'm Nate the Great from TakeFlight214.com, and this is the Threads of Influence, the unraveling of Akademiks Clothing. But before we get started, this video is brought to you by us here at TakeFlight214.com. More on us at the end of the video. As for now, please smash that like button for us, because it really does help us continue to grow as the small channel that we are. And once that's out of the way, now let's get to it. Akademiks was founded in 1999 by two brothers, Donwin and Emmett Harrell. But to tell the story of Akademiks, we have to jump in a time machine and travel back a little bit further than 99. Natives of Virginia Beach, Emmett learned to piece garments together from his mom, who was a seamstress who sewed clothing out of the trunk of her car. And although he took college-level classes since the 6th grade, rather than actually going to college after high school, he opted to go to New York in 1990 and began freelancing. His brother Donwin was also bitten by the creative bug that had influenced so many others as well. And in the landscape void of true representation of the culture, Donwin had an idea to create something new. As we've touched on before, in the 80s and early 90s, fashion was highly segregated. Preps wore prep stuff, rockers wore rocker stuff, and so on. But guys from the hood longed for a way to express their own style. Brands like Polo and Tommy had been adopted but were never truly accepted as their own. It also didn't help that many of the industry higher-ups were quite small-minded about the potential of this new sector. And at that time, if you were black and designed clothes, you were automatically pigeonholed into the quote-unquote urban category. Because of this mindset, Donwin left the country to launch his first brand, Perps, a denim line. He went to Europe, where he felt that society would be more receptive to a young black designer, and where he thought that he would be able to create a commercial brand and wasn't confined to a niche market. Long story short, Donwin would later shelf Perps and come back home and take a job with P&B Nation, another popular streetwear brand from the early 90s. As for Emmett, he landed a gig with Mecca USA, where he too would work for several years. But as the 90s drew to a close, both brothers grew disillusioned with working for other brands and wanted to stake out and do something on their own. Considering they both had a love of knowledge and all that it brings, they chose the name Akademiks and officially launched in 1999. They started out pretty basic with logo t-shirts and jeans, all in a baggier fit that was really popular at that time. The late 90s and early 2000s was the golden era of rap-inspired fashion. It wasn't officially called streetwear yet, but it was kind of like the primordial soup of what would later become streetwear. It was an interesting time before the days of internet dominance. So if you wanted to advertise your clothing brand, you had to use magazines. And if you had to use magazines, you needed a way to catch the eye of the reader. Akademiks got scooped up by many of the hottest rappers of the day. Soon after launching, guys like Kanye West, Cameron, 50 Cent, and tons of others were frequently seen wearing Akademiks in magazine ads and music videos. The brand's design ethos mixed street style with a more scholastic alternative appeal. Mind you, the early 2000s was an era where fashion finally began to transform. Prior to that time, there was literally like a hood dress code. You better not have tried to get a bit too adventurous, least your partners roast the out of you. Point being, there wasn't really much room for deviation or expression. But when guys like Kanye West and Lupe Fiasco began gaining prominence and the term quote unquote backpack rap was coined, it offered a blueprint to a path off the same beaten trail. And brands like Akademiks and LRG thrived in this new space. The early stated goal of the Harrell brothers was to make a brand that was trendy and accessible. Many of the preceding brands to Akademiks were price prohibitive to the demographic that Akademiks wanted to serve. So when they gained more and more prominence, they had absolutely no reservation about providing Akademiks to as many stores as possible and at reasonable prices. During the early 2000s, Akademiks enjoyed a window of opportunity that proved quite lucrative. As we covered in our History of Rap Clothing video, every rapper who was somebody at the time had their own clothing line. The reason this was the case is because there were tons of people who wanted the look that more established brands had been reluctant to adopt. These guys just had enough sense to capitalize on the desire. In 2004, the brand received a bit of heat from a more conservative crowd when they ran an ad on the side of New York City buses stating, quote, "Read books, get brain." MTA officials went on record stating that they were unaware that quote unquote brain is youth slang for...
Right now I just want to talk about blowjobs, because I like to talk about blowjobs.
MTA would go on to publicly condemn Akademiks for their dishonesty. But really, was it them being dishonest or was it MTA being fucking jackasses? You be the judge of that, I suppose. Ultimately, the outrage will only serve in the favor of Akademiks in the eyes of consumers, as many would expect. With the Harrell brothers having experience with other brands that they had worked with in the past, they were able to bring their skills to bear to create a line that perfectly encapsulated the vibe of the day. They had experienced so much success with Akademiks that they decided to do offshoot lines. Donwin was first with reintroducing his jeans brand Perps, and later Emmett in 2006 with Stash House. Stash House was an attempt to compete with the new kids on the block who had began popping up over the past few years. All the success that brands like Akademiks had would spawn a batch of new lines with newer, more evolved interpretations on where they thought street fashion was heading. Turns out, not only were they having problems embracing the changing trends, but the fact that they had their stuff in every store all over the country severely hurt the long-term respectability of the brand. At the end of the day, their desire to make their clothing easily accessible and widely available wound up being the death knell in the entire concept. I mean, who would have thunk it, right? Oversaturation claims yet another soul.
Your soul is mine.
From what I could gather, Akademiks is still owned and operated by the Harrell brothers. The site is still live-ish, but it's been a while since they last updated it, considering there's a banner photo of the 2019 collection, and every single piece that they have listed is marked sold out. At the end of the day, Akademiks came about in the perfect time for what they were doing. They made waves and contributed to the huge tapestry that is our cultural experience. But when it was all said and done, they faded into oblivion, sadly, like so many other pioneers of days past. But what do you think? Were you a fan of Akademiks back in the day? Hit us up in the comments section and let us know. So, now about us at TakeFlight214.com. We're a collection of artists creating pop culture related pieces for home decor and apparel. We've been in business for over 15 years providing quality art and customer service globally. As you can see though, we're a small YouTube channel right now, and growing from this level takes money and support. But rather than asking for donations or money for nothing, I simply propose that you stop by the site and see if you see anything that you like. We've got hundreds of designs to choose from, and we also do custom one-of pieces. So stop by TakeFlight214.com after this. The link is down below in the description. But before, don't forget to smash the like button on the way out. And as always, if you want to be updated whenever we drop a new episode, then hit the subscribe button and then the notification bell. That way you'll be dinged each time a new video drops. We do these once a week. And with that being said, I'm Nate the Great from TakeFlight214.com signing out. Until next time, peace.